everyone. Thank you, Angie. So we need to appoint a chair to start our meeting.
I would place a motion that Lindsay chair tonight's meeting.
I second it.
Got a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, let's stand for the pledge. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So first order of business is the adoption of the meeting minutes from January 8th.
Roll call.
Sorry,
Roll call.
thank you, Angie. Roll call.
Evie Dundas,
Present.
Zachary Kahai,
Here.
Stephen Minor,
Here.
Lindsay Zefton,
Present.
Tamara Di Martino.
Here. Okay, now. on to the, adoption of meeting minutes from January 8th. Were there any comments or concerns?
I reviewed the minutes and moved they be approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so our first order of business is PLZBA 2024-0062. It's 253 6th Avenue for a use variance, convert a single family residence to a two-family dwelling. Lana? Thank you for coming back. Do you mind just giving a brief kind of refresher on your?
Sure. My name is Ann Bear. I represent HDT Estates, and my client is seeking a use variance to convert 253 6th Avenue, which is currently a single-family home, to a two-family home. What's unique about this property is that it is a single-family home that already has an in-law apartment. So it has separate utilities, separate electric, separate gas. There are separate kitchens, separate back entrances. The only exterior exchange that would need to be renovated is a front door added. I did submit to the seeker form, the environment assessment form, which because really the only renovation or exterior change to the property would be adding the door, there would be little to no environmental impact if this use variance were granted. Also, if my client were to purchase the property as a single family and attempt to rent it out, you could see as submitted under Exhibit D, there would be no reasonable rate of return on the property. In fact, he'd be operating in a deficit. The conversion of the property from a single family home to a two-family home would not result in any, would not alter the neighborhood in any way, since most of the neighborhood are two-family homes and single-family homes. Also, as you can see, my client is invested in the property. Last year, he did buy 239 6th Avenue. He renovated that property. It's a two-family home. He did a beautiful renovation on that and had that renovation completed and leased within the year. So if you were to grant him this use variance, he would complete the renovation. The property would not just sit.
Any questions from the board?
Has there been any opposition from neighbors or anybody?
Not to our knowledge, no.
Did you notify the neighbors?
Yes, the notice was put up.
No letters received.
No.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was gonna get to. So is there anyone here tonight that would like to speak for or against this project? Come up to the mic if you are. No? Okay. Anyone online that has a comment they'd like to make to the board regarding this project? Nothing in chat?
No. Nothing.
Okay. I propose we move forward with seeker.
That was one question I had on a procedural end. I believe I made a motion last time before we realized that we didn't have the short environmental assessment form, which we have now.
Mhm.
Is it appropriate to reintroduce the motion again, or so? Reintroduce it?
Yeah.
Okay. Shall I proceed?
Yes, please.
Um, Madam Chair, in regards to PLZBA 2024-0062, as supported by the staff reports, I ask that the board find this proposal to be an unlisted seeker action with sufficient information available.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 We good with seeker? Do we need to make a neg deck?
That's what I was about to say. Okay, because just because it's unlisted, I mean, sometimes the declaration is not required on an unlisted action, but I think for comfort's sake, you ought to make your declaration
Right, so I
just to cover it.
make a motion that we make a negative declaration on the seeker action for this project,
That you don't find that there will be
that there will be no environmental impact.
substantial.
Substantial
Adverse
environmental.
environmental.
Okay. I make a motion that we find that this project does not have a adverse environmental impact and therefore have a negative declaration on seeker.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 So we close
Okay.
the loop.
Yes, we've closed the loop. All right. So I will also make a motion that we approve the variance, the use variance for two-family dwelling. The applicant has provided sufficient information that they will be unable to provide a reasonable return without the approval of this variance, given the current condition of the property. It is unique in that it is already mostly set up as a two-family. It is very similar to other properties in the neighborhood. And will not, so therefore will not substantially alter the character of the neighborhood. And as you're under contract, isn't a self-created hardship. So with that, do I have a second?
I would second that motion.
Steve, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
Have a
you.
great
Have a
night.
good evening. Thank you too. Okay, sorry, guys, I should have made this announcement in the first part. I'm gonna reorder the agenda real quick. Sorry, I didn't do that before. I made a note of it and then didn't do it. Since you haven't been before us yet, like to formally present, I wanted to make sure that we got through the applicant that we had tabled last time. So, if everyone is okay on the board, do I have to make a motion for this, or can I just,
Oh, you're the chair.
I'm the chair, I get to just
You get,
roll? All right.
you get to roll out the agenda.
I get to roll. All right, so with that, I'm gonna move on to PLZBA 2024-0051, 232nd Street, which is an area variance, asking for a relief of 21 feet 8 inches to the parking setback.
Good evening. Are we working?
Yes.
My name is Barb Nelson. I am director at TAP Inc. TAP Inc. owns the property at 230 Second Street and we propose to construct new construction, a condominium complex. Can I share my screen, Angelina?
Yes, I think we should.
Or are you doing yours? Okay. Share screen. You have to let me in. Yeah. So the complex will have now, the new construction will have 27 units. When we were last here, we were talking about 30. We've actually reduced by 3 units. And here's a quick rundown. Make that a little bit bigger.
Evie, can you see that
And-
screen okay?
Okay.
Okay. It's just tilted more than usual, so I thought I'd ask.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, you guys okay? So, when last here, we had 13 parking spaces and our garbage trash area was in a 14th parking space. We took a 14th and turned it into a trash caged area. We have instead shortened, I forgot my point.
Oh, you'll have to take the mic with you, but.
Yeah, you can take it off.
So the building used to come all the way to this line here, and now we've pushed the building back and created an actual trash room. It will have walls and a roof, hopefully better at deterring vermin. So the building used to come to here, we've brought it back. So it's a better solution, and it opens right to the street, so we can pull all those bins out. So we have 13 parking spaces. We have 28 units. Those 13 parking spaces will be committed and dedicated to these units. I say 28 because the little building on the corner here, which is not part of this zoning review, it's an existing building with 1 unit. That'll be part of the complex. So 27 newly constructed units, 1 in the little building on the corner here. What we've done is shifted the building, building F there, so that it is now, I have a different list for my, it is now from the property line. We have to, you have to, from the property line to the building.
Okay, so from the property line to the building, it's gonna be around 20.
I have it here.
Yeah, I'll measure it too.
Okay, so it moved a foot or 2 in that direction. We gained a bit of length as well by, instead of having a bollard, a wall and 6 inches and a bollard that's 8 inches, we're going to apply a rubber bumper, a traffic bumper on the concrete wall of the building itself. So we gained a couple inches there. We're splitting hairs, but we're trying to make it work. And then we gave you the turning diagrams for, I'm going to zoom in here even more. Okay, so we've got 19 feet from the building to the property line. Here's the actual property line as we adjacent
Yeah.
property line to across the alley, right? So our parking now starts essentially 24 feet 8 inches from that property line. And I think before we didn't really have it accurately measured, but it was something more like 21. So we have 3.5 feet, 3.4 feet on our property of the parking, and then we have the whole width of the street there. This is a moderate sized car, a standard mid-sized vehicle. And you can see its turning radius there, 26.14. This is more of a compact car, and certainly it does, has a better time getting in and out. What else did we do? So we reduced some units, we shifted the building, we moved the trash out of the way, and fine-tuned all of our dimensions. What we still can do, we have to talk about is moving this line of columns back from the edge, face edge of the building above. So we could if we make our engineers cantilever the building out 3 feet or so, that would even improve the ease of getting in and out of the parking spaces.
Yeah, right now the columns are 4 feet from the edge of the property line.
So it's building projection here.
That's the- yeah,
Oh, from the property line, right, but we could bring that even further back.
we could-
from the building
we could
projection.
4 foot, we have a 4 foot canopy.
But you don't have that now because the building projection's here.
Yeah, so this is from the structure, the post
Uh-huh.
to the property line is 4 feet.
Right, but we could bring the post further back. We'll
We
talk.
could, yeah. we
Yeah.
could.
Not gonna
Um,
impact the variance you're requesting from us. The parking would still be
Right,
where it is.
Right. So I think that's kind of where we stand with our response to your questions last year. Move the building, lengthen the parking space, replace the bollards, illustrated all your actually property lines on the street, the turning movements, the space widths are 9 foot at the columns. So our parking space proper now begins at 3 foot 4 inches from the property line. It was closer before. I don't have those actual dimensions with me.
Yep.
So if this is considered our rear property line, our front property line, because it faces a street, and we have no problem with you calling it a street, then the variance requested is,
21 feet, 8 inches.
thank you.
Yeah, which
Thank
would
you.
be the
It's-
difference.
It's in there.
I appreciate the change, you provided the additional information I requested, and I appreciate the changes you made to the plan, which I think address some of the other concerns that we heard, but certainly my concern, you've
Mhm.
provided that distance that I was looking for to make sure that you've got adequate turning radii for the
Great.
vehicles, especially given the density of parking that you're proposing. But Rick, you had a question.
Couple perhaps. Does the upper story, the
Mhm.
second story that goes over the parking spaces, how far out does that extend? Is that set back at all from the property line, or does it extend all the way to the property
No,
line?
that is 3 foot 4 inches back from the property line.
The upper story is?
Yes,
Okay, all right.
Yes.
And so the parking is really going to begin at the 3.3 foot 4 inch.
it's actually a couple inches back from there, but
Yeah, so we have building protection 4 feet.
4 feet.
Yep, so the.
Wait a minute. Oh,
And
that's not, the
parking,
okay,
yeah.
so the building projection itself is 4 feet. Thank you,
Yeah.
Nate. The parking space itself aligns with that. So both are 4 feet even. The building's back and then the parking starts right there.
No part of the building goes all the way to the property line.
Correct. If this were an actual rear property line, there would be a 5 foot requirement for that.
Evie, did you have a
instead of
question?
4.
Not for the applicant, no.
Okay.
Fine.
Afterwards, I have 2 administrative questions.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
Did you look at angling the parking spaces?
We did.
Didn't we talk about that
We did
last
talk
time?
about that.
We
Last time
did.
Do you have them render it and show it at an angled parking spot?
We did, and I didn't bring that sketch with me. It works. It just sends everything at an angle. It doesn't really gain that much. Sure, it's a little easier to pull out, but you don't have a one-way street here. I mean, if the city wants to make it one way, we could consider that, but we like this. It's simple, it's straightforward. I mean, when we do that, then, this one kind of tips into we kind of have to shift. We need this 9-foot access aisle between 2 van style parking lots, and it works well with the entrance. And so we would prefer this, but we did look at it. We did look at it. And we looked at parallel. We've got 20 feet between here. That's a little tight for parallel, and I just didn't want to risk the banging into those columns.
Yeah, when I had requested they look at the angled parking, it was mostly as an alternative because of the clearance width, so.
If we had not pulled the building back, we might have had to do that because we needed to understand the turning radiuses. What we don't show you here is the turning radius of a double cab truck. So we're willing to write into the laws of the, the bylaws of the condo corp that no vehicle over 16'7", which is a mid-size, standard mid-size vehicle, SUV, sedan, station wagon, and van.
So you'd be open to that being a condition of approval,
Sure.
that parking be restricted?
Yeah.
6'7".
16'7".
16?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a Cooper. The whole.
Any other questions from the board? No?
On that note. On the note, hello, everyone. My name is Tanner Gooden. I'm the civil and site civil engineer for the project. And so with that being said, just the restriction real quick, I would say that 17 feet would probably be a nice even number. What we're showing here is that with a typical mid-size, average mid-size in the United States, 16 feet, 16.7 feet in length, that we have the room for this to overhang and not hit the adjacent property line. So a 17-foot vehicle, just as an engineer, would be fine. What would not be fine is, again, a double cab truck, a large moving, large van, or even an extended station wagon that's around 19 feet. It would be tight and you could make it work, but I think that would go against the spirit of what the board is asking of us.
Anything else you want to point out here? No.
Okay. Any comments from anyone here in the room? Go once, go twice. Any comments from anyone online?
I could report that we had 2 information meetings in our office.
Oh, yeah. I will come back to that. Just give me a second.
Okay.
Thank you for the reminder. Anyone? NJ, I assume nothing's coming up in chat.
No.
Okay. All right. Barb, yes, please fill us in on how your information meetings went.
So we advertised on by email to the neighborhood leadership, sent out about, 16 emails. They distributed it forward to their constituents. And we had, so we opened the office on a Sunday at 3 to 6 and a Monday 3 to 6 or 3 to 6, and just said, drop in anybody with information who wants information. And there were probably 4 households, maybe 5 households that showed up. Most of them neighbors who live close by, and one of them a potential buyer. And I have that record of who arrived and how we can continue to meet with them. And I was really amazed that the one woman who actually lives across on 2nd Street down about here, she said, why are you only going 3 stories? Oh, man. But with 3 stories, we would need elevators. These are really much more townhouse, multi-level apartment appeal to homeowners. And I didn't want a big long corridor with elevators. So no, everybody was generally positive. And of course, everybody wants more parking. But the one neighbor said, well, I'm a sinner. I have 2 cars, a summer car and a winter car, so I can't complain. No, you can't. So that's where we are.
All right. So
Actually,
this is,
Rick, you want to talk about the street is one way, it's not.
Well, Angie's reminded me that I have some information, but it's not verified that is a one-way, that Franklin is one way at that location. But the signage may not be adequate.
Sign is
And,
somewhere here.
but it's not verified.
No, I haven't verified it, meaning I haven't established that myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I would
Fine.
mention that from our assessment of the site, it is one way going in accordance with many of the other alleys that kind of follow this corridor. That's what we have in our plan. And when we did a survey, but I don't want to say, I think, if we could get that clarification from the city, that would be helpful. I do believe it's one way.
One way
And for the
One way south, right?
from north
To south.
No,
to south, meaning coming in from Adam Street down.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The width of that is not something you would see typically for a two-way street.
Yeah.
It makes sense to be one way.
I know a neighbor was here last time and he said it was two-way. And sometimes it's not uncommon for Troy residents to use alleys as if they are two-way, even though they might be one-way.
Mhm.
Certainly put a sign.
If it is.
So I'm gonna make the recommendation that the city clarify whether this is, if Franklin Street is in fact one way, and if that can be clarified, request that the planning board include a one-way sign be incorporated into this project.
Yeah, we had a
Just
meeting
outside
yesterday,
of our
and-
realm, but I can make that recommendation,
Yeah.
so that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, so this is a seeker unlisted, so we just need our,
well, before I get to that,
Yes.
if that was actually my second question, and whether, it is unlisted, whether there were any other factors that would change us, the standard approach for unlisted. I don't think.
No.
No. The other question I had, administrative question was, usually the zoning board matters are rather sequential, numerically. This is not. Any particular reason why? I mean, it's the number is 2024-0051, and we're up in the 60s. Is there any reason? Was it,
The PL ZBA numbers? No, that is just generated somewhere, so it has nothing to do with.
oh, I thought there
Yes.
might have been some process that,
It might be the date of application,
Application,
Oh,
yeah.
original application.
all right.
Yeah.
Just curious, it was. kind of-
Usually these kind of
This was
numbers,
entered last year, so it will have 2024
Right,
as compared to a new application, which will be 2025 PLZBA.
understood,
Yeah.
understood. It just seemed an anomaly, so I just.
Yeah, it depends on which one was entered first.
Okay, if I can proceed with my motion
yes, please.
for the environmental aspect or the seeker aspect. Madam Chair, in regard to PLZBA 2024-0051, as supported by the staff reports, I ask that the board find this proposal to be an unlisted seeker action with sufficient information available.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and as unlisted, nothing else needed.
no, you have to declare its environmental impact.
Why am I getting this so mixed up?
That's why I was trying to clarify that. So should we repeat?
No, we're good. We can go through.
No, they declared it. Unlisted does not mean that it has a negative.
Yeah.
Right.
It means, no,
It's not
supposed-
like type 2.
no, it's not like that.
Yeah, is that your question? Is that it should be type 2, not unlisted?
Well, should there be any variation from what the
What's-
staff
what's-
report
what's-
indicated?
This is a
And
type two,
it
right?
indicated
What did I
just
do?
a basic
Sorry,
unlisted
bear with
seeker
us.
action. So that's-
What did you put?
That was my administrative question.
This is a type 2. So,
5-1?
no, it's unlisted for planning, but this is a variance request, a single variance, single.
Oh,
Who's lead agency?
no.
This is unlisted, so
So type
it's not a
2.
coordinated
It's
review.
not coordinated
Oh, it's
review.
not coordinated.
but
So
still-
ZBA can act by itself. It doesn't need planning
Right,
board
okay,
to.
you're right,
Correct, but the type is not dependent on the action we're taking, it's dependent on the project. So for
Yeah.
the
The
planning board,
last-
are you an unlisted? Okay.
That's my understanding.
Not type 2. Okay, so
That's right. The last
This is-
staff report from the last session indicated it as unlisted. And now that I see in the agenda, it refers to it as type 2.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing that. I've got it. Yeah.
It's only type one.
Type two?
Yeah.
Right, okay,
So-
I
so-
get that, but okay, but again,
But it's type two because they are requesting for setbacks.
but so if you, so if it's only in the area, it's.
For setback requirements. We can treat it as a type two, that is to use it in five, but yeah.
They're saying that the listing changed from one agenda to
Yeah.
the other.
I was.
Our staff meeting, we've got our agenda and our staff report, and it's listed different on the two, which is more.
This is like two here. then.
So that's
I
fine.
think I did talk to you about this before,
This
so.
says type 2.
Right.
And this
This
one
one says unlisted.
And that's what's going to require a step.
Like, remember I talked to you about this singular area variance, that was type two. That was, yeah, this was the same thing. So the previous one was unlisted, but we got to clarify that it should have been type two. But if you want to go that, they already supplied that secret formula, it doesn't even matter, so.
So
You can
did they
go
just
ahead.
move that it was unlisted?
Hmm?
They did, right?
Right.
Alright,
Yeah,
why
so
don't
we
you-
can
why
go
don't you-
ahead.
Why don't you just
Read it.
Yeah,
make, no, or just make your declaration.
Yeah.
That's fine. If you want to move to declare
Oh,
whether it has an adverse environmental impact or not.
why don't you say what you
Like I said
modified
before,
from
'cause I
last
did-
time?
I will make a motion that we proceed with a negative declaration as this project does not have a significant effect on the environment. Second,
Second.
thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sorry, I meant that as a question and it came out as a statement. Okay. With that, I am going to make a motion that we approve the variance for a front setback for parking, a relief of 21 feet, 8 inches, with the condition that parking be restricted to vehicles no longer than 17 feet. And I believe that this variance should be granted because it will not create an undesirable change in the neighborhood. That this is the best way to achieve cheap parking, and the variance being requested is not substantial as it's in keeping with the nature of the street and the neighborhood. I don't have to hit everything with an area variance.
Oh, I apologize.
I'm not trying not to do more than I need to.
And you need,
She's closing all the loops.
I will second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 No.
Okay. All right,
That's it.
you're good to go.
Thank you.
Enjoy your evening.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Okay. All right, so back to our second on our agenda. Sorry for that. PLZBA 2024-0061, 285, 289 River Street.
okay.
This is the renovation and the restoration of the American Theater. And the relief being sought is to allow for the internal illumination of the marquee. welcome. Please tell us about your project.
Thank you. My name's Scott Townsend. I'm with SWBR. We're an architectural firm representing Philip Morris from Proctor's Theater. So we are here. Everyone knows the American Theater on River Street. It is going to be going through a full renovation, and it is going to be a multi-use facility that it's going to be restored to its historical front, and it's going to have theater in there, or movies and live music. Anything else? Yep. And this has to go through, in order to make this viable, financially viable, it does need to get historic tax credits. So we've worked with them. We've gotten all the approvals through SHPO, which at state level, and National Park Service at the federal level. And all of our drawings show that we're restoring the marquee, and it's been approved by them. And it does have some illumination on it, which is not allowed under the zoning ordinance. So that's why we're in front of you today. I do want to remind you, it's River Street. There is a lot of lighting on there on various commercial properties. And it's also pretty much right across from Franklin Street Alley, which is the lit portion of it too. So this is really coming in for this to allow this to be restored and backlit. And we have a big package of information in there for you. If you have any questions, we're happy to ask or answer them. There it is. Yep, and you can see the historic photo that we're working with. And we worked with in the archives from the Historic Society and recreated the marquee.
Can you, I don't know whether it's this drawing or if Angie can pull a better drawing, can you give us a better description of what exactly is going to be illuminated? Kind of give us a general idea of like light levels and size and.
It's in the documentation. It's hard to verbalize light levels, but it's going to be less than Franklin Street Alley. And I'm trying to remember where it all is. It's all up in the upper marquee, if I remember correctly. In your documentation is some detailed cut sheets of the information or the company that is making it. And there is a drawing in there that shows it's all LED, so it's energy efficient. It's very simple, but it's just going to be backlit along the top, and that's pretty much it, if I remember correctly. Anything else that's backlit that you know that I'm missing?
Can you point specifically to what area is going to
Yeah, go
be lit?
It's right along there.
Just, okay, so it's not necessarily like, it's not a sign per se of like the lettering or,
What
No.
of here?
yeah.
What of this, is this going to be lit too? Here, what I'm showing with the cursor. Because it's showing it's going to be.
Displays. A little bit of lighting.
So wait a minute, I'm confused, because,
So there's
what
gonna
you
be
just
lighting.
pointed to is N13, which is the Archie thing. And then, but below it, which is N11A, which says the new digital marquee installed in front of the transom, which to me, the digital, when I look up like what EMCs, they're kind of like gas station-y looking to me.
No.
Yeah, so that's what,
They're television. In essence, these marquees are large televisions.
Can you point to them again? I didn't see where you pointed.
so is that, so I'm confused as
It's
to,
what,
yeah.
it's what would have been a backlit sign in the original that said now playing.
yes.
It's exactly the same thing, but it's digital rather than a lit sign with fluorescence in the side and a paper sign in the back.
So do you have other options? Because I mean, I love this idea. I love that we're doing the restoration historical. It's a super cool building. I've lived in Troy for 27 years. I'm thrilled. But at the same rate, if anybody looked at the New York Times last week, there was this whole article about the loss of illumination, the old style neon signs and whatnot. And they just talked about how that old, I mean, you're restoring something to its cool old look, but then you're throwing in this television-y look. So are there other options?
Yeah, I was gonna say, generally not. We can't do neon anymore for the most part, because of energy and everything like that. But also, we worked really closely with National Park Service, and we got historic tax credits. I understand that, what you're thinking, but, it's one of those, we do a lot of historic adaptive reuse projects, and there's always a fine balance between trying to recreate versus trying to be, in 2025 with an adaptive reuse. And we personally, as well as the MPS and SHPO, we all felt this was inappropriate.
Is
way of
this,
doing
is
that.
this considered an electronic message system?
That would have to be your determination. I mean,
It does
We're-
say EMC in the verbiage. Somewhere.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And
Right.
the code seems to indicate that it must be approved by the planning commission prior to Director of Code Enforcement issuing a permit. So,
Did planning approve this?
the answer is planning did approve it. Unfortunately, it lapsed because of the timing it's taken to do all the projects. So we are going back to planning just to re-up our approval.
So there's no current planning approval.
That's correct.
But it's also theoretically not allowed at this point, correct? Am I correct?
Well, the lighting aspect
The
is,
lighting, right,
is,
right,
Yeah,
not-
and that's
not
why
the
we're
rest- not the
here.
restoration. No, I understand that.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'm a visual person. Do you have, I know you don't have that one ready, but do you have one someplace else that you can show me? It's gonna look just like this?
Well, at Proctor's and Schenectady, we have about 30 of them. And in UPH, Saratoga,
oh, can you make sure you're speaking into the mic just so we can make sure we're catching you on the recording?
Schenectady,
You
we
can
have
take it
about
off.
30 of them. In Saratoga Springs, we have 8 or 9 at Universal Preservation Hall. And at the rep, they're about, in Albany, they're about 7 or 8. So they are part of the system. It makes it possible for us to be current with what's coming rather than printing and putting up. They're totally controllable. Their color, their brightness, their design is digitally controlled from a central location that we operate.
Is it digital, like a moving thing?
Nope,
It's
in
just
fact,
stationary?
we purposely do not want to do that. So it's not animated at all. It is just a poster. Static. It might change to another poster. There might be 2 in a minute or something like that, but it's a static poster, not animated.
And it's gonna be like coming soon or?
Yeah,
It's basically
exactly.
an advertisement.
It's basically saying what's in the theater. It's identical to what would have been in paper,
Mhm.
but is now digital because it's cheaper, easier, longer lasting, all those things.
There's gotta be another alternative, just in case. Is there one?
When we hunted for Proctor's in Schenectady, we couldn't find anything better. Paper had just, you can imagine with 30 or 40 or even 2 posters, printing and putting up posters becomes this constant effort, which is why so many places ended up putting up pin letters instead of changing posters in order to do something that was a little bit easier. We couldn't find anything better. The quality of the equipment is high, which is important. And it's behind a glare resistant glass.
What can I just Google real quick for an image of something that's gonna show me what you think it's sort of kind of gonna wanna look like?
Angie, do you mind pulling up a street view in front of Proctor's and Schenectady? That might give us like,
432 State Street.
oh, that'll be daytime, not nighttime.
Are these gonna run, are
Maybe
these
not. If she does images, they might do a nighttime.
posters gonna be running all night too? Or are you gonna turn them off like at a point?
Typically, we keep them on, but we can do whatever.
And then is the marquee that you're lighting, the same question on the marquee?
Yeah,
That's
we
lit all the time.
typically leave them on.
You typically leave it on all night.
Yeah.
Is there another TV below the mark, and the flat area under the marquee? Is
No.
that,
No,
What-
that's part of the
Where is it?
So, let's see.
Make sure you bring the microphone with you. Sorry.
You can take it out.
So I'm looking at an old Proctor's here where it has, it looks like, where you just put the letters up. I don't know what that's called. Like that.
The pin letter,
Yeah.
the black thing with the pin letters.
I mean, is that an
The,
option?
these two are paper, and they're paper because of issues around power. And what's right inside them are all the digital ones. I'm sorry.
Okay, but that's what we're looking at right there, right?
Yep.
Like that's pretty much
That's
it?
what it'll look like. No, no, not this. These look like that.
Not the green thing?
Will there be something like the green thing on the front of, on the
No,
marquee?
no, there's not.
No, no signage up where?
Nope. Nope. The historic marquee does not look like that, and we're replacing the historic marquee.
Steve?
So this will be the only signage about what is coming.
And the size of that would be?
There's one on either
Wait,
side.
guys, wait, can we
Sorry.
take a little bit orderly? Can you ask me if we're asking questions?
Yeah,
So we're not.
I don't have the exact dimensions on me, but just looking at them compared to the doors, it's about 7 feet tall by maybe 3.5 feet wide, roughly. One on each side.
So the
If you look at it.
marquee that you're proposing is not the old marquee that used to exist there years ago.
We are replacing it with identical.
It is.
The old one came out with rebars to a point.
Yeah, just so you know, if you're talking about the marquee, that was the latest version of the marquee. It's not replicating that. It evolved.
From 1920.
20s or 30s, 22.
So is your marquee flush with the building or is it extending out from the building?
Extended out.
Extends
How
out.
far out does it extend?
Believe it's 9 feet. Hang on one second. It is on the drawings in your
But
documents.
it's not like what you're seeing there at Proctor's, where it's like an
No,
over.
no, no, it's not that at all. The marquee, meaning the extended lit thing here. No digital display, LED lighting, and is identically replicating on the original.
And then an overhang comes out underneath it.
All of this comes out,
Yes,
All of that
comes out.
all
with
of
the
it.
lighting across the top.
And you can see a little bit if you look at the photograph at the bottom.
Okay,
We're
but that
mimicking that.
lighting remains constant. That's not blinking.
Correct.
They're light bulbs,
I'm just-
LED light bulbs.
LED bulbs.
Just asking.
Yes.
I mean, I suppose we could make them. blink.
No,
That's not-
I had heard through the grapevine that it was going to be blinking 24/7.
Oh, no.
And I said, I've got to ask that.
Not at all. What do you think? Live in the neighborhood.
That's why I'm putting the question out there. Glad to hear it.
We can look at.
So let's go back to those, they look like window panes that you would
Correct.
put paper posters in. Not being terribly IT creative. You're talking about their television screens or the equivalent thereof,
Equivalent of a flat screen.
but they'll be under glass.
Right.
And what do they do?
They will promote the upcoming events.
And how frequently do they change or alter their image?
They shouldn't change very often because it's one room. So at UPH, for example, where there's a big exterior marquee that's digital, not marquee, excuse me, panel like that, that's digital. Suppose you could look that up. That one might show better what we're doing. Washington Street, 16 Washington Street, I think, in
Where,
Saratoga
Albany?
Springs, Saratoga Springs. That one, it changes about, it alternates usually because there's 3 or 4 things coming on a weekend. This won't be that dynamic because a movie will stay for multiple days. But it'll just be the 3 or 4 things that are coming and they'll alternate every 30 or 40 seconds. Sure.
Yes, please.
Mhm.
I need visuals.
You said in the document, it says who's gonna be making the sign?
The sign,
So.
the
so this is
marquee.
what it
Yeah,
would look
do you know who that, where it is in the document?
I don't
I see
remember.
that when
I'll
you're-
ask Scott when he gets
Absolutely.
back.
Do you remember who it is?
Scott, I've forgotten the name of the sign builder who's doing the marquee.
Can you direct me? A picture's worth a thousand words. I got it. Thank you.
Can we see?
Keep going up the street.
Here.
Yep,
You see it.
a little more, a little more,
So Scott,
a
just.
little more right there. Turn a little bit. That's the sign.
I know, sorry, I'm sorry. This one I'm.
Basically, from more than 3 feet away, you can't tell whether it's paper or digital or print, really.
Cameron, do you have another follow-up?
So we're just talking about the two posters either side.
Yep,
Basically,
and
elect-
and I guess the lighting on the,
Yeah, and the lighting on the top.
on the top of the marquee.
Oh, wait a minute, what?
Right, so yeah, this is where I'll jump in. As far as this variance, this lighting or luminescence is not allowed in our downtown for either the lighting on the marquee or these digital posters are not allowed in downtown. So the variance would be needed for them to do either or both of these things. And that was to, I think, the intent with that zoning code, and Angie or Rick, maybe you could speak to it more clearly, but it was, to try and prevent that, a lot of luminescent signage throughout downtown. This, I think, is a very unique use in that it's mimicking a historic feature, not,
Which was lit. excuse me.
Yeah.
Which was lit.
From a procedural standpoint, would it be appropriate and useful to condition any possible approval on having the planning board approve as needed by the code, and also make to be consistent with the intent of the downtown area, make any potential approval specific to the unique facts of this theater and not set a precedent.
yes, I think that's whether, I don't know that we need to condition for planning board approval. They're gonna have to get planning board approval before they get, or reapproved by the planning board. Their authorization, basically, their approval re-upped before they can get a building permit. So I don't think we
As a
need.
condition.
But to follow up on your request as far as like the historic nature, you've been coordinating with SHPO, you're looking at historic funding. What approvals do you need from SHPO, basically, or?
They're all done. So we have all the approvals we need. We're at the part 2. It's all finished. And
Mhm.
we have the approvals necessary for getting the required partner for funding, to fund the credit.
Okay, so to follow up on that, if we don't grant this variance and you need to go back and change plans, would you need to go back through SHPO?
The answer is yes. It would be an alteration to something that's already approved.
SHPO has approved this plan. So I think, to me, that satisfies the historic character of that. SHPO has approved it, that it is replicating in today's environment, the historic character of the building.
Understood, but I seem to recall in the materials that there was a concern, not from those organizations, but from the locals, given the spirit of the code of not having it become a
precedent.
widespread
Yeah,
situation.
no, I think if we were to approve this, we need to make sure we are very specific that this is
Unique to this address.
Exactly.
unique to not particular, well, this address, but also this historic use. You did not have correct me if I'm wrong, but you did not have a theater like this in this kind of historic context without having these two elements.
This specific set of facts.
Yeah.
Limited.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
So
saying.
in addition
Yeah.
to that, I mean, because this does fall into the category of what would be the umbrella of an EMC, I mean, which is not allowed, which once you let one umbrella EMC come in,
What's an ENC?
this.
Electronic message
The
center.
signs on the right and the left, the TV-like items, those are.
Got it.
Yeah.
But within the broad category of EMCs, there's probably a bazillion different types of styles that one could ask for. And I guess what I don't want, because we're trying to, renovate and keep our whole historic feel, is that we don't want to, I guess what I don't want to do is I don't want to say, well, they had an EMC, why can't we have an EMC?
Right,
It's
that's
like,
why,
it would almost, if it was, I hate to say called something different, or if there's a different category to put it into, or like you said, site specific or.
right, site specific, specific to the particular set of circumstances, the various related approvals that have already been obtained, the historic character being preserved, all those facts, making this unique
Mhm.
and not it being understood that it would not set a precedent that could be used for other
That's
circumstances.
what I don't want. I don't want. a
Exactly.
precedent.
Well,
Slippery
You
slope.
can articulate as all of those things, how site specific and determining it's a specific project and it's a recreation of a prior use. And those sorts of things. But I would hesitate to say, I will not say that this will not set a precedent.
Okay.
Understood.
Couple of quick questions.
Yes, Steve.
Is a bar, liquor license or restaurant associated with this in any way?
We are likely to apply for a beer and wine.
Any other follow-up?
No, I'm just thinking out loud and nobody raised that issue.
That's okay.
So I thought I'd throw that out there because it's.
It'll be easier to find if it's illuminated.
That's
And
not
there-
where I was going.
And there's a digital sign. Is there any concern about like it bothering the people that live in that area to being, just so like if I wouldn't want to live across from it being something lit up all the time, like in my window kind of thing, or is it something that you don't think will bother them? Or have you had any feedback from the community?
A lot of people know about the project. Just so you know, I'm the architect. I'm literally, our building is next door to it.
Okay.
Across the way is Market Books and all those shops and everything.
Mhm.
There is no residential across the street. And in that area, most of it is commercial. The only thing that is residential is down across Franklin Alley over where the coffee shop is and stuff like that. So I don't foresee it being an issue whatsoever.
I will add, and this is something you just have to trust me about. When we did have some concerns in Schenectady about the marquee being too bright for Johnny's across the street, we just adjusted it. Again, we want to be neighbors. We're good neighbors. So this is not a project being driven by any attitude other than doing the right thing. And when we had a problem in Schenectady, we fixed it.
Do you have the ability to adjust the lights so that it's bright when a show's on and you dim them, say evening hours? when
If there was
shows
a
are-
problem, we could change them. Absolutely.
But you have that adjustability within the lights to
Yep.
do it based on
And
time?
the same thing based on the two display cases, because they're designed, so they could be designed darker, we could make changes if there's a problem.
Sorry, Steve, you had a question?
Yeah. Could you do this with just the marquee without the EMC displays?
Look, we could do anything,
Just ask.
but not being able to say, here is what's coming in a walkable town like this is a little odd. Right? Here's a theater that you may not even know on the sidewalk is a theater,
Fair enough.
except for the marquee.
If it was an issue with the digital display, I mean, I'm sure there's a way to kind of mimic a poster with a light, but you would still need the variance from us in order to light that poster display, correct? So either way, a variance is needed for that poster display. Okay.
Encroachment. I did tell you about encroachment.
Oh, and encroachment into the right of way?
Yeah.
Is that a concern that's
Yes.
been brought up?
Yeah. They are not meeting the requirements because do you want to talk about this? How the minimum clearance of the marquee
Oh.
and the canopy?
Yeah, I've got it here and right now our clearance, and it's because it's a historic nature, is 8'3". And you can see what the minimum is.
No,
Where's-
this is,
Where are you?
yep, this is. The minimum is 16.
Yeah,
That's height?
I believe that's right.
Minimum clearance to what? I guess is what.
Yeah, because there's height and depth.
Will the marquee extend past the curb line?
No, not past the curb line. It's on the drawings. I believe it is. Give me 1 second.
Do you have a side view?
Yes. It's in one of the drawings.
The side view of the marquee.
He said they found that. Which one is this?
Got the rear view, front view.
Yeah, we're 10'6" marquee.
Coming out from the building.
That's correct.
Is that a depth?
Yeah, can you show that?
You told me it was
It's
8.
on
Where is that?
sheet 1A102 in the submission. Oh, yeah. Let's see if it's on there.
I don't think we have that.
And would you mind scrolling down a little bit? If you look at the photograph, it's
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really that we're basically mimicking that. So that gives you a sense of scale, or is that too small?
Can't see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're mimicking the dimensions that were there?
Yep.
Okay.
And that's why it's encroaching on it. If we were designing it new, obviously we would design it to meet the zoning laws.
No, but so
But if
the,
it's-
There's no view.
the issue is coming up in that an additional to have it placed at the height you've placed it, at the depth you've placed it, you may require an additional variance is, I think, the
Yeah.
issue
With
that's
the
being
new
raised.
zoning laws that were adopted,
Yeah.
yes.
You said 8.3, yeah, 8.3.
What are you doing inside the building? You're taking out all the theater seats?
Yeah, the seats are not there. If you recall, as it was a shop of sorts, all
Yeah.
the seats were removed and it was all display cases.
That I did not know.
So our plan is to restore the lobby with the Arch Center and all the rest of it. The box office would be there, all in the same location. And then you'd walk into the theater. On the right-hand side, there'd be a renovation to make accessible and larger bathrooms than what was there originally. And then the rake, the angle of the floor, which is in one of the drawings, is maintained, and about 100 seats are put in. And they're the kind that retract and are heated and have cup holders and are very comfortable.
Like regular modern theater seats.
Yep. And the screen will be the largest screen in the Capitol region.
Okay.
Which means I have to sit in the back. I don't like it.
That's why they're retracting.
You know, I can see pretty good, so it's like, you know,
Remember that. When I was a kid, about 10 years ago.
Do we want to hear public comments
think
and
so,
then
yeah.
come back to discussion?
yes.
Oh,
please.
Okay.
Or did you have more questions?
I just have one question for us internally. I don't know if it's.
Go
appropriate
ahead.
to us Now.
Yeah, it's fine.
So can we, as part of the variance or part of approving or not approving, could you say if it is approved that if a concern comes up about the lighting in the neighborhood, that they would turn it down? Like, can we write that in there? No.
Sure.
He said that.
It's hard to enforce.
I guess that was my thought.
But yeah.
You know, from mind to mouth, sorry.
No, I agree with you. It's just the thinking logistically of it being enforced.
Code could enforce it if it's in the variance.
I mean, it's hard to enforce, turn it down if there's a complaint, turn it down to what level and, you know.
Yeah, you'd have to,
Responding to any complaint, requiring it to be turned off, that kind of thing, but
I mean, there's no residential there now. What's in the future, you know?
There are residences in that area.
Mhm.
I think all he said was there wasn't a residence directly across the street,
Yeah.
but there are residences directly overhead. I mean,
There are
of the
apartments,
other
yes.
buildings.
Yeah.
okay, Angie, you're looking at the overhang.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm gonna let you do that while I take public comment, if that's all right.
yes.
Okay. Is there anyone here that would like to make a comment related to this project? Nope. Okay. All right. Anyone online that would like to make a comment regarding this project? Sorry, Angie, you're gonna have to switch back to Zoom and see if anyone's
Yeah.
unmuted or
Yeah. it's-
Chatted.
Yeah, people are chatting, but I wish they can speak up. Because this thing is so tiny. Samantha.
one in support. As lifelong Trojans, we came to say that we are very excited about the American Theater Project and love the historic attention being given to it. Samantha, I too feel excited about the theater project. I do admittedly, though, feel quite a discomfort about the thought of the marquee being TVs, if I'm understanding correctly. If there's only one show at a time, having a TV mark. Oh, wow. All right, wait.
Sorry.
I was-
Sorry.
I was barely following it, but was following it.
Yeah,
The thought of the marquee being TVs, if, oh, there's only one show at a time, having a TV marquee with just one advertisement for a length of time sounds unnecessary. The historic marquee has used more broadly than TVs and widespread digital advertising was around.
Yeah.
Is that our public comment?
Yeah,
There's nothing
I
about that?
guess.
No, all is related to this project. If there's anyone else listening in online that would like to unmute and make a comment at this time, feel free. State your name. No? Okay. All right. Any additional questions or comments from the board?
Well, with regards to the environmental aspect of things, the staff report last time lists PLZBA 2024-0061 as type 2. The agenda lists it as unlisted, and the package of materials has a full environmental assessment form.
Yes, I think probably the discrepancy is due to, I think previously it was listed as an area variance, not a use variance.
Yeah, because we had said it was,
We,
yeah,
this one is really tough as far as
Yeah.
whether it is a use or an area, and I think it's been listed as both. If it is, and if we determine it is a use variance, then it would be an unlisted action requiring seeker review.
And if it's area, then it's type 2.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
So hence that. I think the more conservative approach is to consider this a use variance as it is area, but directly related to the use, I think is the argument. I don't know. I've gone in circles on this one and making the argument both ways.
I would say, I agree with the use because of the EMCs, but it could be an area because of the encroachment.
yeah. But so for the encroachment, we didn't advertise that. We didn't notice that. So, which means that they would have to come back for us to re-notice people about the encroachment.
Yes, so if there, I'll let you figure that all out, but if you do need a variance for the encroachment, you'll need to come back for another variance. So I guess I'll ask the question of, do you want to table and come back to us with both at the same time? And one would be a use, one would be an area.
And maybe get the planning commission's approval of the lighting issue as well.
What, to answer your,
They can't get planning board approval until we've acted.
so to answer your question, I'd like to be approved for what we're here for tonight, while we're here and
Mhm.
having good in-depth discussion with public comment. So if we can do that, and then if we determine that we need an area variance for the encroachment, we'll come back.
Yes, you definitely need, because Natalia had already sent me their numbers, the 8-3 year. I just wanted to confirm that with you.
Yeah, so let's,
Yes, you will need area variance for the encroachment.
okay.
Yeah.
So if you could come back with a representation,
Yes.
set from the side showing how the
The
marquee
measurements.
extends and how, with its height and everything.
Yes.
And secondly, one of the public comments was that the advertising, that there was no need to have advertising on the marquee because there was only going to be one show at a time. In everything that I've heard you represent tonight, there is no advertising on the marquee. Isn't that correct?
That's correct. It's on the 2 side display panels. This is not like Proctor's or the Palace. It's not that kind of thing at all. The marquee is simply the covering for the entrance, the distinctive characteristic of it, and the lighting around it.
And that's the light bulbs on that one. Right.
Yep.
So then the EMCs are only the 2 side panels, which are for the posters.
Correct.
And the posters are going to be what's playing or what's coming, or one's what's playing,
Right.
one's what's coming.
Right.
And then this is just illumination.
That's just illumination and covering for the
nothing digital.
outdoors. Nothing digital. Well, LEDs,
Okay,
but nothing.
but not,
There is
There's
no,
Nothing moving.
and there's no animation. There's no animation. There might be changes of static images, because on a weekend, we might have 3, because I also noted in the public comment, one show running for a long time. In
Wait a
fact,
second, wait a second. She's talking about the marquee. itself.
The marquee.
You're talking
has-
about the EMCs. or-
Yep. The marquee has no signage. It's just
Got
the,
it. I was following along, but yeah.
but
So-
on these things, I just wanted to say that we're not gonna have one thing running for weeks. In fact, we'll probably have a festival weekend and there'll be, you know, some famous actor dies, and we might do 5 films in the course of a week, and they would be all the films showing. So there'll be a need to be telling the community
There will be movement.
what is
There will be
coming.
movement.
There'll be change, but not
Change.
animation, not animation, because movement implies, you know, there'll be jumping
Yeah, no,
balls
it'll
and
be like this
balloons.
image,
Yep, and then it'll change.
new image,
Right.
like a screensaver on a television.
Right.
Almost exactly like a screensaver on a television.
But not constant.
Slow
But not,
rotation.
well, that's important. So it's not constant. It's,
There will be, correct me if I'm wrong, there will be times it will be static for a day or two. But then there'll be times when it's not on the
Because
weekends.
there's more things going on.
Yeah.
okay.
So-
I think I have a clear understanding at least.
Right.
So someone brought this, I think it was actually the music hall brought this, their initial application to the planning commission, when it was a commission. I think we said that because it varies the code, that their EMCs were not allowed, that they had to get a zoning variance, they had to get a variance from zoning first. I just want the applicant to be aware that we also have EMC standards in our code, which would be applied by the planning commission. And I don't know, I didn't write the damn thing, so.
Angie, did you have something else to say?
So if they still want to go ahead with this, it means that this will also require a variance. Because I did hear from their initial presentation that it was going to change or something.
One more time. What else would
Well,
require a
because
variance?
number 2,
No,
One, they need 2 of them.
The encroachment.
yeah,
There's only one EMC, it says one EMC allowed per,
yeah, and it's-
per lot.
But isn't it two
Uh,
buildings?
Oh, except in the case of a single EMC with 2 faces.
Back to
or
back.
back.
And then it says message duration time, the message or copy may not move or change more than once in a 24-hour period.
You've got to go back, and that has to be amended, I would think.
Okay,
But it's what we have now.
I am gonna put forth 3 things here. First of which, if we as a board do grant this variance to allow EMCs, I'm going to recommend that the planning board look closely at the timing and duration as far as when these things are allowed, when these lights are allowed to be on. Second, I would like to make a recommendation to our city council to update our zoning code to better reflect the historic character within the downtown. I understand where the zoning code is trying to arrive at keeping the historic character, but they failed to account for illumination in the historic nature. So I would like to, I guess if the board's okay with it, I will work with Angie to make that recommendation to the city council, to make a recommendation that the city council update the zoning code to reflect these things, which would address this, as well as hopefully what we're worried about as far as setting precedent, because we can only react to the things that are in front of us, whereas zoning, updating the zoning can be more specific. And my third thing is with the clearance and now these other things, you may need additional variances from us. So I'm going to request that I'm going to propose that we table for this evening. And Angie and I can work together with the applicant to make sure we've got all of appropriate variances covered and in front of us to address all at once at our next meeting if city council does not act.
That would be reasonable.
So I'm gonna put that out as discussion for right now, not an official
Given
motion.
all the moving parts and the positive motivations for, the city, I'm on board.
All of that generally sounds good.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's like Pandora's box. New things just keep popping out that we're finding out that we need.
I was looking at the code and I was like,
Yes.
This is a point of information, which
Yes.
might tie to what you're saying about the code. And I thought this because EMCs, these are not EMCs according to definition.
Good.
EMCs are the digital displays that have pixel in them. They usually, it's defined specifically as 12 by 12 modules that have little lights in them, like the marquee at Proctor's or the marquee at the Palace, that are meant for long distance viewing. They're not high definition televisions. EMCs are very low definition, modular things meant to be seen from a distance. Now, it may not be that, my guess is this is old enough that a modern television was not considered. Because who would put a television outside? Because they were not thin enough. That, this is
This is
something
only a
that's-
few years old,
This is
but
ki-
it's still,
Oh, well. the
whether or
thing-
not we actually defined it as clearly as you just did or ever differentiated in the code is the other question.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just wanted to say that EMCs have, the state has a bunch of code about EMCs. It's different than what this is.
Yours is more like a flat screen where the picture just changes. It's not digitally moving.
Well, based on the image that I saw, it's almost like, the Kindle, right? It's trying to like replicate paper.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
yeah.
what they- and it's not open.
I mean,
it's
High
not-
definition, it's whatever the high definition television is, it's meant for outdoor use, but
Yeah.
it's not those enormous
Yeah,
signs,
no, I understand.
which
the things.
typically are what an EMC
Yeah.
are.
Is there a way to change the verbiage of even what you want to televisions or a different word?
well, we've got, the
Mhm.
code has a definition or description of
Did you
any
find it?
sign that contains liquid crystal diodes, LCD, light emitting diodes, plasma, light bulbs, or other digital illuminated displays that allow for fixed or changeable copy, symbols, figures, or images by remote or automatic means.
Yeah, so our code definition of EMC is much more broad and all encompassing, which would include this. Yes, so that's where we're stuck in the EMC
Okay.
is we have to,
Yep.
it's all lumped into one. Okay, so, is the board comfortable with me moving forward with, I guess I'll write a recommendation to the planning board. I mean, I guess if we approve the variance, and are you okay with me working with Angie as far as kicking this over to city council as a recommended change?
I think we're all on the same page that that is a excellent direction to go to get everything coordinated.
Okay. I don't need a vote on that, do I?
No, not on that, but
Okay.
you do need a
Um,
vote on the table.
Yes, so we'll make a motion that we table this application for this evening until next month. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Thank you.
thank
We'll
you.
coordinate with you guys.
Be patient.
It will be more helpful in the long run. I
Let's just, yeah,
They're EMCs.
okay.
Brooks was complaining about it.
They're EMCs.
Yeah.
I think Proctor's are,
Okay,
and
Well,
Paul
no,
wants
so-
them too.
Yeah.
It may be the only option or reasonable option.
yeah, let's talk about Choice Things by Musical after, what they ended up doing.
I haven't come back to you yet, so.
Oh, that's, okay, so I was like, wait, okay. Does
But they have two, they also have
they're gonna have the
on
same
each
thing. Yeah,
side.
but we don't.
But I think their marquee might have a.
Am I good to keep going, Angie?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we are moving on to PLZBA 2024-0063, 39 to 45 Congress Street. This is an area variance seeker type 1. The applicant is converting the formal Russell Sage dormitory into 71 market rate apartments. Units range between 301 and 828 square feet. The proposed average dwelling unit is 518 feet, whereas our code requires that the average be 700 square feet or greater. So a relief of 182 square feet is requested. Good evening. Please
Good
tell
evening.
us about your project.
Will do. My name is Joseph Pernicero. I run the development team at Redburn Development, which is the company behind this LLC. I'm joined via Zoom, I believe, by Elizabeth Young Jojo, who is the president of our company. We're very
Hello.
excited about this. Oh, she is there. Okay.
I was there in person about 5 minutes ago, but I had to go pick up my children. So you get me virtually now.
So she can answer any other questions via Zoom. And I am sharing my screen, but Angie's not on Zoom.
Oh,
I have a presentation shared, but it's not.
Rick, do you mind switching? Oh, Angie's right there. Just bear with us.
We'll give a quick presentation and then happy to answer any questions, give you some background on the project, where we are as far as approvals, our timeline, and go from there.
Yeah, I think I did.
I am, I
You
just
just gotta
not
pull
on
up Zoom
Zoom.
so we can see it, I
Oh.
think is all.
There we go. Okay. All right, so our project location is right on Congress Street. It is the old Manning Hall, currently still owned by Russell Sage College. We are purchasing the building, under contract to purchase it. We have not bought it yet. We are proposing to convert it into 71 market rate apartments. We did receive our planning board approval conditioned upon receiving this variance from your board. I believe they also had a positive recommendation to your board. And I believe they declared a negative declaration on seeker. I'm not sure procedurally how that works here. Again, it's 50,000 square foot building right on Congress Street. It was previously used as dormitories. The bottom floor had some office and classroom space, but all the upper floors has always been dormitory since it was built in 1965. We are again, as you said, seeking an area variance to allow the average unit size to be 518, where your code requires 700 square feet. And as I mentioned, the planning board granted a conditional approval at their last meeting. Some photos of the building. This is across Congress Street in front of Sage Park. Photo on the left is looking a little bit north. Photo on the right is looking a little bit south. Photo on the left is looking south down Second Street. Thank you. And photo on the right is again looking south on Freer Alley. The project is not proposing any changes to the exterior of the building. All the renovations are strictly inside, beyond any minor cleaning that needs to happen. The building is in tremendous shape. I've said this now at 3 public meetings. Russell Sage College has done a tremendous job maintaining this building. So it's really a great asset. The reason we're here tonight is really because this layout is existing. So this is our 4th floor layout, and I've highlighted these red walls just to kind of delineate where the units are. I've also colored in a light purple every other unit to help you show you. But every wall you see is an existing wall. So the plan is quite simple. It's to take 2 dormitories that are already connected via bathroom, and that becomes 1 apartment. So the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floors all have these existing layouts. They're thick block walls with these 2 center atriums. That's the yellow you see. There's an atrium in the left building, an atrium in the right building, and then a light well that's between the 2. But all of these walls you see are thick block walls that really can't be moved or altered without significant investment. So we're really working with an existing layout here. I did just quickly kind of render what a unit would look like. So that's unit 408 in the bottom right corner. That unit is 493 square feet. And just to show you that, these are still reasonably sized units. We have lots of these in our portfolio in Albany, Troy, and Schenectady. For a single person or even a couple, still plenty of space. Elizabeth manages the entire portfolio. She can certainly speak to that if you have other questions. But I do have, I believe, one more slide to show you. This is just the ground floor. Just wanted to show you, we'll also have a game room, a fitness center, and all the amenities that come with a modern apartment building. Happy to answer any questions you might have. And then also talk about, the requirements for a variance. Yes, sir.
Couple questions.
Yep.
This is on the corner of Second and Congress?
That's correct. Right across from Sage Park.
Got it. Why do you feel you need the variance as opposed to the 700 and some square feet that code or zoning requires?
Just because I'm trying to make the most efficient use of the building as it sits. And so otherwise I would just have parts of the building that I'm leaving empty. Elizabeth, I don't know if you can speak to that more.
Yeah. In order to make this project financially even feasible, we are utilizing historic tax credits. As you all know, I'm sure when you do so, you are limited in what you can do to the historic fabric of the building. It was a dormitory before. We have to work with existing walls in a lot of the places where they are. So that's one reason why it's the historic tax credits make it financially feasible. But as Joe mentioned, you're not talking about wood stud and sheetrock walls here. You're talking about thick concrete block walls. That's how the building was constructed. So utilizing the existing walls just from a financial perspective is also something that we need to do in order to make the project work. The project literally does not work, unfortunately, if we were forced to knock down block walls. I can say that from a management perspective, efficient use of space is something that a modern renter is looking for. We have an existing building that we purchased, goodness, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, also in the city of Troy, on Morrison Avenue. Those apartments, again, we purchased it, it was existing. Those apartments are 375 square feet, which sounds insanely tiny, but actually when you lay that space out efficiently for, someone that just got their first job or is a student, it's actually quite enough space. So these units at an average of over 500, it's a nice size apartment. Again, as Joe said, for a single person, a student, a couple, maybe just moving in together. We plan on pricing these apartments at market rate for sure. I don't like to use the word affordable. I'm talking about lowercase a affordable, everyday apartments for everyday people. We are not going to price these at luxury apartments. We all very much believe that the fabric of downtown Troy is made more strong when you have folks, again, everyday people that can afford your apartments. That's something that we hold very dear. So sorry, go ahead, Steve.
If you transition from student or dormitory housing to private apartments, how does that play into parking or traffic or congestion on the streets?
Liz, I can answer that.
Yep.
So we have already submitted a traffic demand management plan.
Can't
Sorry,
hear
we've already submitted a traffic management plan and parking study to the City of Troy Planning Board, and that has been reviewed and approved by planning staff and the planning board.
What
And
does it do?
they determined that they'll have, the project will have no negative impact on the traffic flow and parking demand in the City of Troy. There's sufficient street parking and parking available in the city garages, also public transportation, that this will not have a negative impact on the traffic network in the city.
So there's no parking lot that goes with it?
There is no parking lot that goes with this building.
Okay.
Three questions for me. When you say market rate, can you give a rough range of rents?
I can, Liz, if you want. No.
Yep.
If you-
So I think the average rent here is $1,100 per month.
Yeah.
And the range, I think, is we have some as low as $900 a month. And then some of the bigger ones I think are 12 or 1300.
Yeah, they aren't all small. Again, we're dealing with historic tax credits here, so that means we're going to have a variety of different units based on the layout that exists in the building right now. So we do have some larger units, though there are a fair number of units in that 500 square foot range.
Right, yeah, that's would get you down to the lower average. When I understand the thickness of these walls, so difficulty to take down. However, are they load bearing walls or just thick concrete?
So they're not all load bearing walls. They're just very thick concrete that would require significant investment just to open them up. And I believe you'd have to kind of, make a steel lintel to keep that opening. We've looked into it. There is one case where we have to do it. But if you were to do that in multiple instances, the project isn't. You're talking about significant
it's
investment.
Financially not feasible. I think it's important just to reiterate what you said earlier too, Joe, is that we are not taking one dorm room and making one dorm room an apartment. We are combining 2 dorm rooms together to make an apartment. So it still will be a 1-bedroom apartment. We might have a couple of studios in the mix, but the majority are 1-bedroom apartments. You have a separate bedroom, a separate living and kitchen, separate bathroom.
Yeah, can you go back to that slide where you had the layout? And Angie, do you mind closing the chat just so we can see it a little bit bigger?
Yeah.
So how are you getting between what is now 2 dorm rooms that has a bathroom in between? Are you walking to the bedroom through the bathroom? Is that how these are laying out?
You are walking through your bathroom to get to the bedroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that means that you're not having to modify the walls in between units otherwise.
Correct. Yeah. Because previously, just to clarify, right, that would have been where the living room was 1 dormitory, 1 student would live there. Where the bedroom is, another student would live there, and they shared a bathroom that were connected.
Right.
Yeah.
So, the way our code is written is not that every unit needs to be 700 square feet or above. It's an average.
Correct.
So it would be that you are either not using some of your smaller apartments or you're combining some of your smaller apartments. Have you actually, run the calculations? How many units would you be down to if you were to not get the variance from us, or if to meet the 700 square foot threshold?
I don't know that I can give you the exact number. I did basically, I'll say, start to run the calculations. And then once I got to the point where I was like, this is, I didn't go that far to see what is the number?
Yeah.
Because the overwhelming majority of them are on the upper floors where it's already existing. I will say that even if I took 1 or 2 units out, I'm not going to get to where I need to be. The 700 square foot requirement in this building is just not feasible without significant investment or tearing the building down and gutting it to its studs, which at that point, you don't have a feasible project.
Yeah, but what number did you get to? I guess, it's if you start combining 4 units.
Yeah, you're taking out like whole floors of the building and just not using them. It's multiple units. Like I'm saying 20 to 30 plus. Because again, the overwhelming majority of the units are between that 475 to 525 square foot.
So your revenue would drop by 30 to 40%. It's not feasible.
It's not feasible.
Well, you did say you weren't doing a 1-to-1 conversion, but you were expanding, but you went from 60, or you'd be going from 64 units to 71
No, sorry, I misunderstood your
in
point.
numbers.
Yeah.
So you're
If you're saying if I had to get to 700. the
right, but
average-
I'm talking units, not just measurements. Yeah, I think they were asking for a count, and you're saying your plan is to go larger. Well, that would bring the number down. You're chopping them up more.
In order to go get that average up, I'd have to take away the smaller units, right?
Or you've got to combine smaller units.
Right,
You've got to
or
have
I'm-
more units that have a
Correct.
larger square footage to offset the smaller ones,
You have less total units.
which
Right.
means you would have less total units. I'm just curious what that number is so that we can understand what is not financially viable. Like, is it 30 units that gets you to this threshold? Then I think can make sense. You're cutting the units in half. That's,
Right,
that's
I-
the number I'm trying to get to.
Right. An important thing though, in that discussion is to remember that if you needed to combine more of these dorm rooms together, right now they are physically connected by a restroom in the center. If you had to combine more of them together, again, we're going back to tearing out thick concrete block walls and completely changing what was the historic layout of the property when it was built. And I don't believe we would actually get SHPO approval for that either.
And so I just did very quick math on my phone to answer that question.
Mhm.
I believe rough number, just to kind of get to the point, I believe it's around 25 to 30 units.
You'd lose or you'd be at a total of 25 to 31?
Nope, I would lose. So my total would be around 40 to 50, which again, in a building this size, when I'm paying this price for it and putting this much money into it to really bring it back,
Their cash flow drops by 25 to 30
Yeah.
grand.
yeah, it's,
A lot.
we would not do the project.
No.
Yeah.
It's not feasible.
Well, I think this picture is useful in that you're seeing the actual layout, because, I can run the numbers, but actually combining those units.
Yeah.
And how how you would lay those out.
Anecdotally,
tough.
me and my fiance live in an apartment that's a little bit bigger than that one. I think it's about 600 square feet, maybe a little bit bigger. It's plenty of space for the two of us. Although maybe she disagree. I don't know. I think it's fine.
She's not here.
Exactly. So she can't speak for it. Yeah.
Is the building sprinklered now?
It is not, but it will be by the time we're done.
Will every unit have sprinklers in
Every
it?
single unit. Yep.
Now, you had already gotten planning board approval?
Correct. So they issued a approval with the condition that we come get this variance from your board.
Did they, you submitted an EAF
Yep.
to them?
And-
And what was their determination?
They made a negative declaration at the meeting. So I don't know if you have to do that again or not.
No,
No.
we do
Okay,
not. No,
yeah.
it was a coordinated review. We did get an email from the planning board.
Right, I wanted
Requesting
clarification
if
on
we
that.
had any comments on the seeker for this. So seeker's complete. So it is just our action on the variance. Any other questions? Is there any public comments related to this project? I'll get back to us.
that's fine.
You're not public.
I know. Just a thought.
Is there anyone online that has a comment related to this project? Either unmute yourself or throw it in chat. Nothing in chat, Angie?
No.
Okay, Steve, your question or comment?
If this deal goes through with Russell Sage, do you get a tax abatement in property and school tax from the city of Troy? Or are you on the tax rolls as commercial real estate?
The building will go back on the tax rolls. We are a private company, so building goes back on the tax rolls. We are working with the IDA on a tax abatement to kind of ramp that back up slowly so we can help our cash flow over the first 15 to 20 years of the project.
15 or 20 years.
That is our request of the IDA, yes, to slowly build that back up. That's standard for this type of project across the city. This Troy IDA has issued pilots like that to several projects.
That's a payment in lieu of taxes. It's negotiated with the IDAs.
And to be clear, on day one, we will start paying taxes on this building, which is more than it is now. Right now, the building is fully exempt.
Right, I understand that
Yeah,
part.
what we're trying to request from the Troy IDA is just kind of to ramp that up and not go straight to full taxes on day one. And again, we've received that on several investment projects across the city as, standard kind of operating procedure, at least in my view of development.
IDA meetings are open to the public, correct?
They are.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
They are. And we will be there. I believe we're actually on the agenda for next meeting.
Yep.
And then I think the city council accepts it.
I have to go back through what.
Pretty sure.
this is. That would make sense. Because it's impacting the tax rolls. Any other questions or comments? Discussion among the board? Anything you wanted to discuss before we take action? Angie's just. Anyone want to make a motion?
Do we need to make a formal environmental motion?
No,
That's
those
already been
seekers,
done.
negative declarations already been issued
And the discussion.
for the
reflected that?
project.
Correct.
Yes, so that's all done.
Okay.
See, this is an area variance.
An area.
So I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the variance, which is a relief of 182 square feet from the average unit size of 700 square feet within a building. It's the applicant's shown that this can't be achieved feasibly, both given the construction of the existing building, but in particular, the historic nature of the building and wanting to keep that character in place. This will not have an adverse effect on the neighborhood. And I don't believe this is a substantial variance. With that, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 No.
Okay. Good evening.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Okay. Last and final item. We have PLZBA 2025-0005, 270, 2071, God, 2751 Fifth Avenue. Getting later in the evening, sorry, guys. This is an area variance, seeker type 1. The applicant is proposing 73 unit senior affordable apartments. The variance requested are an increase from the allowed 3 stories to 5 stories. An increased maximum height allowance, a relief from the parking zone setback of 25 feet, ground floor transparency, orientation of the front door and main facade, and we'll just say the roof. Before you get started, it's my understanding that the planning board is lead agent, and this is a coordinated review, and they have not issued a negative declaration. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so we're going to hear you out this evening, ask questions, start the discussion, but we can't take action until they have issued their determination.
Correct.
Perfect. Awesome. Proceed.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate your time tonight. I promise we have no marquees in our project. So
You're
my name,
outside of the downtown zone, you'll be fine.
Any electronic signs?
no signs, no EMCs. My name is Samik Gupta. Appreciate again you guys taking the time tonight. With me here tonight is Kelsey Carr from Labella, Ken Syverton from Syverton Ragosu Architects, as well as our partners from Home Leasing, Melissa Munoz. Got it. Yeah. Before I get started into just sort of showing some of the pictures and talking about the project, I just want to set the sort of backstage with this. So our project has been envisioned to meet a lot of the goals in alignment with what the mayor set forth, the city set forth in multiple different ways. So as the mayor has said continuously, the goal here is to remove the city of blighted properties that exist, put them back onto the tax roll. I was heavily involved with the DRI back in 2019. One of the main initiatives in there was helping to ensure that North Central Troy would eventually become a gateway corridor into downtown. I obviously was around watching as the Recode Troy zoning had changed, and in there specifically as it relates to North Central, it says their goal is to get rid of relic industrial and old auto related businesses that were in the neighborhood and eventually start to propose more housing, specifically affordable housing. And then the last thing that I'll mention is that there is a massive need, as we all know nationally, but specifically in North Central and Troy, for more senior housing. And just by way of example, we spoke to the Troy Housing Authority that manages a handful of senior housing buildings, and they've got wait lists over 2,000 people that are looking to get into senior housing facilities. So again, my name is Sumit Gupta with Five Corners Development. I previously was with Hoboken Brownstone as their COO. So we've been involved in Troy for quite some time in some notable projects downtown. When COVID hit, it was a catalyst for me to move back home. So Capital Region is home to me. And we launched a company, Five Corners, specifically focused on multifamily opportunities in the region. So that means being able to do market rate workforce, affordable housing. Right now we have active projects in Saratoga, Schenectady, Troy, obviously, Amsterdam, and a couple in the Mohawk Valley. The one thing that is new to us, Five Corners specifically, is affordable housing. So as we're learning the ropes, we really want to bring in experts alongside of us. So with that, I wanted to introduce our partners at Home Leasing.
Good evening. My name's Melissa. I work for Home Leasing. Just a quick brief introduction. We're a third generation family owned and operated vertically integrated company. We have B Corp certification. We have a development, construction, and a property management arm. We invest in the communities in which we build, and we stay there for decades. We have offices, main offices in Rochester and Albany, but at all of our properties, we have on-site local staff. Is that all I need?
So a little bit about the property. It's 0.83 acres spread across 3 parcels. We actually acquired one of the parcels through the Troy foreclosure process. And this property is located across from the well-known Mount Olympus site on Fifth Avenue. The site is, as Kelsey will get into, is a heavily contaminated site. There are a lot of site constraints that we'll talk about tonight. And we've done a tremendous job between architecture, engineering, and structural to try to come up with a concept that we believe is a great fit for the site constraints that we're having to deal with. The other thing that's worth noting is that this is an opportunity cost, really, in the sense that right now the property is owned by a friend of mine who's a contractor who has a contracting business in Troy. And the reality is that when he first bought the property, he bought it with the intention of turning it into a storage space, doing a light facade renovation and turning it into a storage space for equipment and equipment outside it on the grass area, which I think, given the change in zoning and given what the mayor's asked for, what the city is looking for, I think this is a much better improvement from that type of application. So with that, I wanted to pass it on to Kelsey to just talk about some of the existing conditions.
Thank you. Kelsey Carr with Abella Associates. So the existing property is the former First American Towing and Recovery. So it's been vacant since early 2023 and has since been condemned by the city. As you can see, the existing buildings on the existing site are in very poor condition. The rear of the main building, the foundation is actually starting to crumble and fall down the rear slope. So it definitely is in need of redevelopment. So as Sumit had indicated, there are a lot of site constraints that make redevelopment of the site very challenging. To start, the site has about 25 feet of grade change from east to west, as well as steep slopes of 25 up to 75% along the western part of the property along North First Street Alley. There's also shallow bedrock, generally around 2 feet below grade, with areas of bedrock outcropping at the northern edge and at the western slope. The site has also had historic industrial use since the late 1800s, which has resulted in soil contamination, which will have to be remediated as part of the redevelopment. So all of these constraints render over 47% of the property to be unbuildable, despite the zoning, the current zoning allowing for up to 80% impervious coverage. So the proposed redevelopment includes a 73-unit senior affordable housing, 5-story building with 23 ground floor enclosed parking spaces and 7 exterior spaces for ADA visitors and electric vehicle charging. The design also includes streetscape improvements along the Fifth Ave frontage and extensive landscaping throughout the property. So this is the rendering of the proposed building and frontage, which will be a significant aesthetic improvement over the existing conditions, as you saw from the photographs. As you had noted, so the variances we are here to request this evening are for the building height, parking zone, front setback, front door not facing the primary public street, ground floor transparency, and the roof form. So to start with, for the building height, the neighborhood 3 development intensity zone allows for 3 stories or 40 feet maximum building height, where we have 5 stories at 58 foot 6 inches total height proposed. So given all of the site constraints that I mentioned and the limited buildable site area, the proposed building footprint really does maximize the site utilization that is available, while at the same time resulting in a slight reduction in impervious cover over the existing conditions. The existing rock outcropping at the northern end of the property is not financially feasible to excavate. So this actually is what drove the design for the ground floor parking, with an area of unexcavated rock at the northern end that will allow us to then extend the 1st through 4th floors over that bedrock to be able to recapture a portion of that unbuildable land. So in doing a floor area ratio analysis, the proposed gross floor area at 5 stories is actually lower than what would be allowed as of right if the entire property was buildable. But as we said, only about 47%, or actually, sorry, 53% of the site is buildable. Lastly, the proposed 5-story building will not impact the view shed of the surrounding properties. So looking at this aerial view, the property is located adjacent to Mount Olympus, which is the exposed rock mound shown near the middle of this image. So you have River Street in the foreground, North First Street Alley behind that, our site then sitting up above the alley with frontage on Fifth Ave, and then Mount Olympus, which already obstructs the views of the properties to the east, looking towards the river. This is another view looking east over Mount Olympus. As you can see, the properties to the east are set lower. And then this is a view looking west from the site towards the river. The next variance is to allow for the 7 parking spaces along the property frontage, where the code requires a 25-foot parking zone front setback. So under the existing condition, the asphalt of the road actually extends all the way to the existing property fence. So there's no clear or safe pedestrian zone along the frontage. So with the redevelopment, this will be resolved by providing new granite curb and concrete sidewalk along the property frontage in accordance with the city standards. And then there will be the small parking area just set behind the sidewalk. These spaces will allow and just be used for ADA as well as visitors, and will allow for the 2 dual electric vehicle charging stations that are required by the code, which, as you know, it's unsafe to place those type of charging units inside an enclosed parking garage. So the newly established streetscape that we've created here will definitely improve the pedestrian safety along the frontage to reconnect the new sidewalks that were installed just south of us. And then it'll just create an overall better neighborhood aesthetic. So with that, I will turn it over to Ken.
So a couple of other items that we have to address is the front door. So by the zoning code, it states that the front door has to face the street. So as you can see from all the stuff, information that we've presented so far, we're pretty close to the sidewalk. So what we've done is we actually made a little bit of an entry element here. So it has a bright red color, and all of the parking that occurs is on the right-hand side. And when we show you the renderings a little bit later, we've really earmarked that the front of the building is, you'll not have any trouble finding the front door, because we have a nice canopy, the highlight red, and it's right where you just parked, or you just walk right by it to get there. So that was one of our items. The ground floor transparency, we're supposed to have 50% transparency on the ground floor level. The existing building has 0%, the one that's on the site now. And our building, we do have some windows, but the majority, like we have some windows here, but this is all a parking level because the grade is really lumpy. I don't know if you've been there or not, but that's a technical term.
Can you take out the mic and?
Oh, a little bit higher.
Yeah, because it's low for you.
So this is the door where you enter the parking garage. And we do have another door over here to exit the parking garage. That's a man door, person door. And same thing here. But when we had a meeting with the Troy, the city police department and fire department. And one of their main concerns was people coming into the building through the parking area. So our original concept was to leave the entire first floor open so that people could walk in and out of there. And it's actually easier for us to build an open parking structure because then we don't have to exhaust it, have the carbon monoxide detectors. But in reference to that meeting that we had with the city police and the fire, they asked us to enclose it. So that's what we did. So we've enclosed that to help prevent people from getting access into our building and like wandering through and stuff like that. And
Angie,
oh,
I need
roof
to
form.
figure
So
out-
I have one more thing. Oh, should I answer a question now? No, go ahead.
No,
No, I'm just
someone
kidding.
was chiming in on the Zoom, so I just wanted to make sure we had them muted.
Oh, okay. And then one other item that you have is roof form. So we didn't want to have to get more of a height variance required. And obviously this style of building is not going to have a sloping roof on it. So what we've done is we've created a penthouse type look on the top floor. We have these 3-story white accents, and you can actually see them a little bit better on the rendering. And then we have inset balconies on the floors. So we have a lot of undulation. So instead of doing raising the roof up even higher than what we need it to be, we've undulated the front facade, front and back, and jogged it a lot to create some interest, which is what the roof form part of the code was asking for. And one of the items with the HCR funding is that we're hoping.
Paul
to-
is City Station 4, right? I
This is
thought we
not
were to
City
go
Station.
4.
Angie, can you mute until we're in public comment? Thank you.
So, oh, and we have one future solar array that we're hoping to put on the roof. So it's usually pretty good to have a nice flat roof to put those on. I can just quickly recap. You can see all the undulations of the facade. We have a lot of plantings in here. You can actually see the bedrock outcropping going up here. That we're building the building over that rock outcropping. And then this is the front entry element where the door is not on the front facade, it's on the side, which is adjacent to the back sidewalk and parking area for guests, visitors, and tenants and staff.
So the red is the entrance.
Yes, the red area is the
Yeah.
entrance, and you can see it a little bit. We also have a secondary canopy at human scale to direct people to come in that way.
Wait, hold on. Guys, if you can ask me to address just so we can keep order, I would appreciate it. Steve, you had been waiting for a question.
Yeah, a couple of quick questions. You're talking about the bedrock on the right side of that diagram, correct?
There's bedrock on the north and west side. Some of the original pictures, you can see the outcropping of the bedrock where the previous foundation.
Are you enclosing that? Are you covering that? Or are you leaving it as is in terms of the barren bedrock?
We are going to excavate, knock off any of the, where the bedrock is turned into shale because it's popped up a little bit.
Yeah.
By the geotech report, we're gonna go down to solid bedrock, and then we're gonna be pouring a strip footing that will allow for 3,000 pounds per square foot linear bearing on the bedrock. So there, right now, if you look at our floor plan, I don't think we had it in
So
there.
you're encapsulating it with concrete, right?
We are perimetering it because it's a mound. We're building the building out, over and back over it.
Are you covering or going over the top of the bedrock?
Over the top. So it'd be like a crawl space within the lower level of the building.
So the building goes over the bedrock.
Yep, I have a plan. Let's show that to you.
I think it's like the word cantilevering over it that might be tripping
Oh,
you up.
no,
It's confusing, me, yes. thank you.
Yeah.
this is where
Yeah.
the bedrock outcropping is, so there's no grade level access to that. We have a foundation wall here
Got
coming
it.
up, and then we're building a foundation wall around it, and then we'll have a structural system to go over the bedrock for the floor
Okay.
system.
Now, what are the side streets? I'm semi-familiar with this area. The side street on the north and side street on the south.
North Street on the north and Rensselaer Street in the south. And to the west is North First Alley, and then
That's
it's
here.
River Street.
So the actual high Mount Olympus that I knew as a kid is still gonna be on the other side of the street.
Directly.
Yes.
That's what threw me
Yep.
when you were talking about Mount Olympus. I'm going, why would anybody build up? You're not, you're across the street.
Yeah.
We're gonna put a zip line in probably.
Yeah,
That would be very difficult.
Zach, you had a question?
No, I was looking at the drawing and it looked like there were stairs to go up to get into on the right-hand side, but I think it's just the way it's set. Never mind.
Yep, no stairs, but we do have an elevator inside.
How many
Tamara,
parking spots are you putting in?
That's
32 on site.
And how many units do you anticipate?
73.
Okay.
Tamara, did you have another question?
Just on the stories. you want 5 stories versus 3. I understand, I mean, is the first story actually parking?
You can see right there. on the
Yeah,
plan.
well, I'm looking at that, but yeah,
Yeah.
same picture.
So what we see as a first story is really a parking garage?
It's really at grade, right? So, we're calling this just so that we're using the same terminology. This is really like a grade story. This is really our first story up here because you can see when we go up over the bedrock, it's like maybe 6 feet above the bedrock on the right side.
Yeah.
And then, the road does slope down as you head north. So this is at elevation 66, which allows us to get into the garage there.
So there's there's 4 floors of living.
Yeah, there's like 4 elevated floors that are up in the air, and then one, this could have been at grade, it could have been a 4-story building, but we enclosed it for the request.
How long do you
So-
anticipate to build this?
2 years. 20 to 24 months.
What is your elevation difference between the top of Mount Olympus and your proposed height of your building?
No idea.
Within 18 feet,
In which direction?
the building is slightly taller.
Okay. When you come back at the next meeting, I'd like to know more exact what that kind of difference is. I'm thinking about kind of sight lines from the hillside and how this building will really impact that view. If it were hidden behind, then it wouldn't be a big deal with the extra floor increase. So I'm just trying to think about those lines. So if you can get me some of those dimensions of kind of the elevation differences between floors 4 and the top of the building, that would be helpful. How do you have the parking in front? And you said you're installing a sidewalk with curb. What is that proposed section? I worry about parking right off the curb like that, and
Yeah.
especially in senior housing, ADA accessibility, you tend to have that kind of dip in the sidewalk. I prefer the sidewalk to be at grade level, which would require that separation. So is that something that you're providing?
Yeah. The city standard is actually to have the sidewalk flat and only have the ramp right up tight to the curb. Like a short ramp.
Right, so you've got a separation between the edge of roadway and the sidewalk, so that the sidewalk elevation is 6 inches above the roadway.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have the parking? I can go back and double check the plans, but is the parking like right up to the sidewalk, or do you provide a little extra depth to have that space?
It's a little bit set back, but I mean, we requested it as basically showing it as 0, but it is a little bit set back from the sidewalk. Because the
Define a
sidewalk is
little
8 feet
setback.
wide in that area.
Yeah, and is the sidewalk would be within the right of way? So you're,
Yes.
right, okay.
How far set back is the parking from the sidewalk?
I think it's 3 or more feet. It might be, it's between like 3 and 4 feet.
That would, yeah, so I think potentially it's worth coming back with that exact because it's less of a variance for us that we're granting you.
Okay.
Because right now you're asking for 0, which means your parking can be right up against the property line. So if you can set that back 5 feet from the property line, then it's less of a variance you
Okay.
need from us. Steve?
Is there a way the parking can go on the backside or the riverside?
No, because that is extremely steep slope and in the middle of the site where the building used to be in like that void space there. That's where it's like a drop off cliff. Like it's bedrock outcropping at the back of the
But it
building.
drops dramatically.
Yeah, it's basically vertical.
Okay.
To that point, I am not gonna ask you to draw or engineer this because I know what it entails. But roughly, I mean, perceivably, you could put the parking along the inside of the build, like, along the inside of the property line. I'm orienting myself north is to the right, so to the left of the building in this image, but you'd have an access aisle, right? So your building is shrinking.
Right.
Like, what is that change in kind of space and units of, if we say you can't have the parking right out front, you've got to put it over to the side. Having some numbers for us as far as what that kind of impact in square footage would be.
I can just tell you off the cuff, like to be able to have the turning radiuses you need there, you probably lose like 25% of that building.
Well, you'd be able to expand the building right out the frontage, so you'd be able to turn where parking is into building, I would presume, and then you put the parking along the side. I understand you need an access aisle.
You would lose
But-
this entire chunk of building here, right? Because this is 60 feet. So you need, you need 60 feet for double loaded parking with an access aisle. This building width right here is 66 feet. So you would lose this entire third of the building. And it doesn't make any sense to pull this front wall closer to because then the units get too deep and they're oversized for HCR standards.
Okay,
So you'd lose a third of it.
Steve?
Trash, recycling dumpsters, garbage pickup.
That's all managed inside the building. We have a trash chute that goes to a trash room right here. There's a trash compactor. They get compacted, they get stored in the trash room. And then on trash day, they're brought to the curb and removed. And then their, maintenance people bring it back, canisters back to the trash room.
That's good.
Tamara?
So my primary concern is the height. That's my statement. That's my question. But my concern is the height.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the reason for, as Kelsey mentioned, the reason for the ask for the height is because in order to, if we had to use dynamite to take out all of the rock cropping underneath in order to put a garage below, project's dead right there and then. So what we've done is designed to the site constraints that are there and have the density that we need there in order to make this a financially viable project. If we could go below ground, we would have, and the height request wouldn't have been there, but this is really driven by the fact that we can only use 47% of the site. It's also going to have multiple $1 million of remediation. We basically have to take all dirt off of this site. So all these things have exacerbated the viability of the project and forced us to go vertical as opposed to horizontal.
You go back a few slides where you can see like the actual aerial view of the neighborhood.
It's a tough spot to build on.
Yeah, I mean,
Where the blue was, yeah.
To your point, I think the one additional story makes sense. I think any sort of numbers to kind of justify that additional story, because you're going from 3 to 5, again, helps us support a potential variance.
Sure.
Is the actual large part of Mount Olympus in that picture or not?
Yes.
Show me.
This is all now.
That's what I thought. Okay.
And again, to just highlight how steep that slope is. When you look at this, this is. the person
No, it
standing-
drops. It,
Yeah, this is a person standing at North First. Not only is the building in ridiculous condition, but like you can see how steep that is.
Did you discuss with the fire and police departments some other way of preventing access to the parking area that leaves it open for ventilation and therefore doesn't require a variance from us, like it doing steel grates or some sort of something else?
We didn't necessarily have a dialogue or I guess an in-depth discussion about different options, but they were pretty blunt about saying we do not, in this neighborhood, we do not want people to be able to access the building. So not only do they want us to enclose the garage, but we also have to fence out the entire backside of the parcel.
Mhm. I think it would be interesting to kind of see what this would look like if it were kind of like, you know, those open columns. It was like a wrought iron kind of grid in between or something like that, that leaves it open, but also provides the protection the fire department and police need. And it also would eliminate the need for a variance from us.
I mean, it would then somewhat look like it looked like a jail cell.
You know, we do have other parking garages that have that kind of prevented access, so at least worth considering.
Yep.
As opposed to the full-on variance from us.
You're not gonna be able to protect the cars that are parked out front and all.
Correct. I mean,
They're just parked out- they're on the street.
Sure, but what EMS is worried about is people getting into the buildings.
Make it work. Excessively tall.
They muted it.
We're actually working with the city and the EPA. And then obviously going to be, most likely, this is going to be a high likely candidate for the brownfield cleanup program. So we're going to have to enter into that, which is, that just adds additional costs. I mean, there's benefits to going into the program, but it just speaks to the severity of the remediation.
It does.
What's it contaminated with?
So the PFOAs and.
Yeah, I mean, yes is the answer. Then there's lots,
enough.
because of the former industrial use of the site, there's
Oh.
metals and arsenic that's been found.
Ooh.
it's bad.
Lindsay,
What?
can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Thank you. With regard to the parking in the front, how many spaces are there again?
7.
7. And to access those spaces, all of those spaces require that you either, you drive in across the sidewalk, correct?
Sure.
There'll be a ramp right on this, on the curb of the sidewalk for the cars to
Yep.
elevate over. And then they'll also have to back out onto the street if they pull in face forward,
Correct.
correct?
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, no different than any other driveway that's on that street.
And how many feet is that altogether, that entrance?
Seven times eight. Probably a little bit longer.
56?
Somewhere in that ballpark.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Oh, plus the handicap, so 64 might be accurate.
Okay.
Anything else? I'm gonna open it up for public comment in case we get some. So you guys prepared. Is there anyone here?
Just start,
Team?
just start.
Yes.
Anyone online that would like to make a comment regarding this project, please say your name and your general location.
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Oh, great, thanks. Yeah, it's Liz and John Walbeck, Troy, New York. And I've been, listening to the presentation, and I have concerns, I guess we both have concerns about the Recode Troy and the whole effort that was put into creating that the rezoning of Troy. And this area, as you said in the beginning, is zoned for a 3-story building. And it is also an area that's higher in elevation. It's a prominent area for downtown, and to have a 5-story building on a greater elevated area, which has, to my eye, not much historic, if any, historic building character to it, would be very much a detriment to the gateway, as you said, to downtown. But I really feel that the Recode Troy here was put into effect as a 3-story limit for this very reason. It's an incredibly large building and would be incredibly tall for me, and would not fit with the character of the neighborhood, which I do realize needs revitalization. I acknowledge that, but this would be very prominent. And just to speak to Mount Olympus, my grandfather used to, had all these stories about growing up in that area in Middleburg, and there are Curry and Ives engravings. That area features in a lot of art about Troy, novels, Bat Shea. I mean, it's a very historic area. It's what's left of a much more prominent rocky outcropping that was, compared to Mount Ida, which is, also part of a historic part of Troy too. So, it was really devastated, and that rocky outcropping that you have there, which which I know you have said is not to be disturbed, but that's all on parts of the former much larger site. So I just wanted to put my concerns out there.
I appreciate the comment, Liz. Anyone else online that wishes to make a comment? Nope. Okay. Any follow-up questions, comments, concerns from the board? Do you have any questions back for us as far as any clarification on, comments or questions we've asked, or any follow-up?
No, I think I know what our follow-up items are.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess happy to answer any other questions you guys have.
I don't think there's anything more at this time, and I think we're all tired. So with that, I will make a motion that we table this till next month.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Whenever you come back, we'll be here.
Thank you.
All right, I will make another motion that we adjourn our meeting.
I would second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye.
Aye.